Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Counterpoise Podcast. I am one of your co-hosts, Samantha Adams, and I'm joined here with my other two co-hosts. You guys want to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, hey, everybody. My name is Malik Foster, another co-host for the Counterpoise Podcast.
And I'm Everett Stevenson. Today, we are going to look at one of our favorite characters in the comedy, original OG as far as in the comedy game, original comedy, kings of comedy, pardon me. People call him Uncle Steve. People call him Uncle Shannon. They recently had a conversation on Shannon's podcast. And one of the topics that came up was relationships and modern day dating, as well as contributions to relationships. And so today we wanted to kind of look into that and some of the things that were said in that pod and in the views that were stated, and let us know, what we think about it, how we think things are going modernly, and, where we agree, disagree, and so on and so forth. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get this video started with those guys. Here we go. So bam, and here we go. Y'all let me know if I can hear everything.
And that was the first time, man, that I'd ever chose wisely. And it was the best thing, because a woman like an elevator button, man, it can take you up or down. If you get the right one, you got something. Mm-hmm. You get the wrong one, but it's like a man to a woman. If you get the right man, you can go somewhere. Right. You get the wrong man, you off. Like I heard you say one time.
So I wanted to stop real quick right there and discuss some of the things that he just said. Particularly, like Steve mentioned how, again, in relationships, choosing your mate, that's like one of the biggest things. Like you even use the the analogy of the elevator. And I think that was kind of good because, again, it can take you up, they can take you down. That right person, we always talk about it. Someone can speak life over you in the power of the tongue, or they can speak, and tear you down with that as well. So I think that part was very much true, very, very applicable to things that's going on today, and forevermore is a universal rule with it. I did find one thing that he said to kind of be interesting, and we kind of cut some of it off, but he mentioned how, this time, I think he said something like, this time I chose wisely, I believe was the term. And I find that to be interesting because I think, again, he's been in his relationship, so he can speak to, how he chose or why he chose. But I think, we all tend to think that we're making a wise choice when we make a choice. Like, I don't think anyone feels like they go into situations generally and feel as though that situation is a situation that they think isn't a good choice and they just choose to do it. You know what I'm saying? Especially if something as far as a marriage. You know what I'm saying? I think that there's something there that you thought that was worth, marrying. I feel like there was a little lack of, direct accountability as to the choices that he made at that time. You know what I mean? However it played out was one thing, but in the moment you thought that it was the right choice. And I think you got to kind of give that to yourself as well. Or you did not know that there's still somebody that you shouldn't even be using. And that still kind of is onus on you because you just wasn't experienced enough to understand what's going on out here or how the game gets played sometimes.
So, I got a little bit of pushback. I agree with you for the most part, but I do think that he, in fact, was taking accountability, right? Because his marriage to Marjorie, the woman that we all know that he's married to, is not his first marriage. I believe this is his second or third. And so I think in him making that statement was his own way of taking accountability, right? To a degree. Of course, he didn't, dig deep all into the details of what happened in his past relationships and all that in this clip. I know he's talked about his past relationships before, but I think he ultimately is saying, like, look, I've been in this situation before and I wasn't choosing wisely. So when I chose Marjorie, I chose wisely. And also, too, it's because of what she, how she fulfills me. You see what I'm saying? And so I think that maybe he may not have been part of me taking accountability before, but I feel like that statement is him taking accountability for the past relationships and even for his current.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I kind of concur with Steve here. Like, who you choose as a partner is definitely one of the biggest decisions. Like you said, it's like an elevator. It can either uplift you or it can bring you down. So I like that analogy that he brought up, and I kind of agree with what he's saying on that point. I really don't have too much more to add on that particular point than what he said.
All right, with that being said, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next part of the clip. Just 1 second. Yeah.
So while we're waiting for you to get that technical kink worked out, it's his third marriage. It was his third marriage. Okay, I think we're ready.
So yeah, get that going on around here.
That's what's wrong with this generation today. These young boys today, what do she bring to the table? The hell you mean, man? What do your ass bring to the table? You got a woman that can come to the table that can make another you. What else she need to slide up to the table with? What about your job? What happened to men who were supposed to be responsible? Do you know that it's our job to take care of a woman and some children, to have a family? That's our damn job.
But what happens when the woman tell you, I don't need a man, Steve?
So we'll get to that part in just a second. But I was just going to say, the whole what do you bring to the table argument is crazy, right? Because people will sit there all day and talk about, yeah, I bring this, I bring that, I'm this, I'm that, and just almost like go on a job interview, right? And big themselves up about all these great accolades. But I think Steve made a really good point, right? There's an adage that says anything you give to a woman, she's supposed to multiply, right? You give her seed, she'll bear fruit. You give her your seed, she'll give you a child. You give her a house, she makes it a home. You know what I'm saying? Anything women will put, one of the reasons women will put on this planet would multiply. And so I think it's important to recognize that when he says that, like, so many men are hung up on, well, what does she bring to the table? Like, you're so worried about what she can bring to the table, you're forgetting that she can just make another you. And it doesn't mean that you are just, worthless or anything like that, or men are worthless or anything like that. I don't think that's what he's saying, but it reminds me of a joke that I once heard, right? I guess it was a joke. I didn't think it was funny, but I thought it was interesting. And the point was this. It was like, all right, Michelle Obama and Barack Obama sit in a restaurant, and Michelle Obama's ex-boyfriend walks in. I don't remember what he did for a living. Let's say he was a bus driver. I don't know, right? And Barack Obama turns around and says to Michelle, imagine that if you had, she was like, there's my ex-boyfriend. He's like, imagine that if you had to stay with him, you'd be the wife of a bus driver. And she replies, actually, no, I'd still be the wife of the president of the United States, only he would be the president. You see what I'm saying? And I think that's more so about what it is because kind of like how you were saying, women have the ability to speak life and death into a man, right? Her being a helpmate, she is able to see, like we've talked about this in other podcasts, right? Whenever you're talking about journey, men typically see what's right in front of them. They kind of have tunnel vision, right? But it's the woman's job to look and see what's going on around him, right? To help him so that he can avoid this, go for that, or whatever, help him to make whatever decisions he chooses to make. Now, he's going to make the decision and she's going to follow it. But, she may be able to find whatever thing that he needs in order to make that informed decision, right? And so in that helps to allow growth. And while she's speaking to him, she's speaking life, encouragement, allowing him to remember who he is in his own skin, reminding him of how far he can go and how dope he is. But a woman can also tear a man down, like when she emasculates him, tells him that he's worthless, tell him he ain't about nothing, he ain't worth shit, he's not nothing. Those things have the ability to tear a man down. And so, I think that it's important also when we're talking about accountability. The accountability of a woman is also to remember the power that she has when she speaks to a man. And I think a lot of times women don't. He doesn't talk about that, but I do think I would be remiss if we didn't mention that also.
Yeah. So, I thought it was funny you guys said something earlier about like how Steve was like, "Oh yeah, I don't think he's saying like he thinks men are worthless." And I laugh like, because I'm like, I'm certain that he wasn't up there saying, you know what I'm saying? As a man, men are worthless, right? But I do think that, he made a good point in that statement in some parts. And then I'm going to bring it on back to say, like, it was still a little dated in other areas. Like, the ability, like, let me acknowledge first, the ability to create life is a magical, thing of how, humans are able to procreate and everything like that. It's a beautiful thing. And again, a lot of that is predicated on the woman and her carrying a child and her helping to, bring that child into life. But I want to also say though, again, while that is very valuable, and we talked about this earlier too, also you doing that with a woman who can also uplift you and uplift that child and do that with the right thing, super valuable as well. You know what I'm saying? I think it's just as important as having the ability to procreate, right? Because it's like you want to make sure that you're bringing that child in with someone who is stable and who is able to make sure that that child is going to have all of the type of things that they need, do their best to give that child all of the things that they need. And so like when I hear that in particular, I look at it and I say to myself, it's like, that's a true statement, but it's a statement that can kind of be covered by all. And I think that's why it's like, just the ability to procreate or just the ability, you know what I'm saying, to have kids isn't a sole blessing that makes a person feel like, oh, well, because she can have my children, I should just provide solely for them. And I think like that was kind of, I know he didn't go into detail for all the reasons why you should provide. He just gave, a snippet of one of the reasons that a woman, you know what I'm saying, adds value. But I just wanted to say, like, I don't think that can be taken at face value for, the fact that she can solely, procreate. Because I think there's some women who do kind of hear that and would be like, yeah, well, I can have your child. And I totally agree. It's truly beautiful. You know what I'm saying? But we all know children are work. You know what I'm saying? And it takes a village truly to help raise a child. And so if you don't feel like, village in home is all the way stable, or the person that you're choosing to build that village with has the same understanding of how you would want your child to be raised and do the things that you would want for your children to be raised, then you may hesitate on wanting to do that. You know what I'm saying? Or you may choose not to do that with someone in particular. So I feel like that whole argument of, you know what I mean, can somebody, or the fact that somebody can bring a child into this world isn't solely enough. But the fact that they can uplift you to the point that you made, you know what I'm saying, the fact that they can kind of speak life into you, I thought that was kind of funny too, because again, as a guy, to say you could get him all the way to be presidents, it's only a couple people who have made it to be presidents, right? What type of careers that they had. They've always been typically like lawyers, generally. You know what I'm saying? And then there's other individuals, and we know you gon', hey, listen, as much as your woman love you, it's gonna have to be some of you, a lot of you, into getting that task done. You know what I'm saying? It's gonna
that's why I said that. That's why I said, like, she's breathing life into you. It doesn't mean she's talking you to the top. She's giving you the encouragement and the support that you need in order to drive yourself there. You know what I'm saying? Because you got to have the drive. A woman can sit there all day and talk till she's blue in the face and giving you all these gems and jewels and all that. But the Bible says, do not cast your pearls in this wine. So if he's not here to listen, and he's not trying to do anything about it, he want to be a couch potato or play the game all damn day and don't want to do nothing with himself, then that's what's going to happen. That's what you're going to get. You see what I'm saying? So,
Absolutely.
He has to be open to want to do those things.
Right.
So
Yeah. From my point of view, I feel like, on the guy's side, I think he's right in the fact that, men need to step up from that aspect. But he's also wrong with if a guy wants a woman to bring something to the table. I think he's wrong in that area because, to me, a woman is more than just a reproductive tool. That's the way it kind of come off as to me. Like, oh, she can give birth. So therefore, well, I'm just saying.
No, finish your point.
No, please,
I didn't talk.
Keep going.
I didn't talk. Go ahead. I mean, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead, Malik.
What I'm saying is, what Steve said was, what she can make another you. What does she have to bring to the table? So pretty much, she doesn't have to bring anything because she's a woman. Therefore, she can reproduce. She can give birth. So she doesn't have to bring anything to the table. That's what he said. Like, of course, Sam.
That's absolutely not what he said. Those are not the words that came out of his mouth. The words that came out of his mouth is, you talking about what can she bring to the table? She can make another you. It's your table. Okay? It's your table as the man.
That's my point. That's my point, Sam.
Let me finish. Hold on. You talk about what can she bring to my table? She can make another you. Meaning, whoever you are, doesn't mean that she could just go ahead and bear children and be barefoot and pregnant all damn day, because that's not what he was saying. What he was saying is she has the power to make someone as strong as you, to make someone as powerful as you, to make somebody grow and continue to push forward in life and motivate them the same way she could do that for you. So while you're talking about what does she have to bring to the table, she has a special power that other creatures on the earth don't have.
I agree with that.
It's not about just being barefoot and pregnant and being able to duplicate people. You see what I'm saying? It's about her ability to create and encourage and support and be the helpmate that she was created to be.
He didn't say all that.
No, that's what he meant. But you just said something that never came out of his mouth. But that's what he meant by that.
I'm paraphrasing, but he literally said because she has the ability to recreate you, which is reproduce.
No,
he said recreate you.
He said to make another you, and that doesn't mean to reproduce.
Sorry, paraphrasing. I said I was paraphrasing,
but it doesn't
not
mean
word for word.
This is where we differ. We defer because you are taking that to mean to reproduce. I'm not taking it as to reproduce. I'm taking that statement as meaning is to breathe life into you, just like she can breathe life into the next man. Has nothing to do with children.
Well, based off his statement, my opinion is I think a woman should bring more than what he said to the table, because I think women are more than just, world multipliers. Like that's what it seemed like to me. That's just what I gathered from what he said.
I know. No, okay, guys.
It's just my opinion.
We are back.
It's just my opinion. Let me.
Our opinions on that. Go ahead. Please finish your thought.
Yeah, let me finish my thought. That's my opinion, and I think he said a man like you shouldn't expect a woman to bring something to the table. Yeah, I kind of agree with that because if you meet a good woman, it's kind of like you already know what she's presenting to the table. If she's on her game, you already kind of see what she brings and adds to your life, because, a woman's supposed to add and supplement to your life, to what you're doing, because to me, I feel like, if a man's doing his job, he's supposed to be the table, and a woman is supposed to add to that table and, make the table better than what it already is when she gets
tablecloth.
So yeah, exactly.
The flowers,
the place settings, the silverware, all that stuff. So she's supposed to add to it
handkerchiefs,
in different ways, in my opinion. Yeah, you get the analogy, but yeah. So that's my thought on that, and we can move on to the next segment.
What can they bring to the table? They don't even know how to set the table. But I'm gonna chill out.
Hold on. No,
I'm gonna chill out. I'm gonna chill out.
Yeah, y'all both need to chill. That's why y'all both single now. Okay, to be clear.
Wow, that's what we doing.
Because here I am trying to give y'all the game,
so there y'all
and y'all
go.
want
That's
to
what it
keep
is.
on going
Y'all
further down this weird ass rabbit hole that y'all be going down.
Y'all can slide in my DMs now. Because Sam told y'all my business.
I did.
I'm currently unmarried. Sam's correct.
Right. I did.
Right. I am currently unmarried. She is
right.
absolutely.
And this is why.
That.
Because
but here we go.
Here I am trying to uplift you. Let's take it here. Trying to uplift you, brothers, into understanding the mind of a female. And what you all continue to do time and time again is what? Lean on chauvinism. I mean, can I get an amen from the congregation? I'm just saying, y'all gotta relax. Okay? Y'all gotta relax. It's not even the traditional versus non-traditional. Y'all gotta understand, you have to listen with an open mind. Because remember something, women do not think like men, period. Okay? And men do not think like women. So when he's saying this, the statement that he's making is, number one, coming from a man who is older, who has lived his life, who has like 4 or 5 kids, has had 3 marriages, and his last marriage has been successful. He's happy, he's making money, he's got all of these things going on. And it comes from being able to also raise daughters. You see what I'm saying? And so he's kicking it with people. I mean, he's kicking it with Shannon at this point about what it is to raise his baby girl. And how he has been able to be successful in his own relationship. And by listening with open ears and understanding how women perceive things and how you can feed into your man, right? And not just being able to feed into your man, how your man has to also be open enough to receive what it is that she's feeding into you. Because in order for your relationship to work, it's a 2-way street. He has to be open if she's going to pour. So go ahead.
Okay. So there you go.
Well, they need to what? Okay, if you don't, how that's working? You know how that's working? Who don't need no man?
I'm independent. I can do for myself.
Yeah, but why do you want to? Yeah, okay, you can drop a trans.
Okay, so boom. For some of the viewers, you may have forgot because we just went on a little dialogue prior to that, but Shannon said to him, like, well, what do you say about the women who feel like I don't need no man? When Steve said the man's supposed to bring the table to he's supposed to bring the table to the situation. Then Shannon asked, well, what about women who feel like I don't need no man? I don't need nobody to bring something to my table. I got it. And Steve said something that I, for the most part, definitely wholly agree. And the question was like, who don't need a man? And it's funny because I think, in today's time and age, you'll hear a lot of women proudly profess how they don't need a man. And while there's understanding that you may not necessarily directly need a man, if you will, need a man to continue to survive every day, to, make a living for you, whatever, put a roof over your head. You may not need a man to do those things. Steve makes the point that life could be a lot easier, we should say in some senses, if you have a man to do those things for you. And I think when we listen to that, like when you hear it from that viewpoint, you know what I'm saying, you can kind of see some people say like, okay, yeah, you may not need me in your life, but also to the point, as a man, you don't want a woman that needs you. You want a woman that wants you. You know what I'm saying? You want a woman that understands that, yeah, she can do all of these things because in today's day and age, women can do all of these things, you know what I'm saying, on their own to be able to provide and don't necessarily have the strongest desire to have a man in order to have certain levels of success in America. But the thing is, you should want me because of who I am, how I carry myself, the things that I do, what I bring to the table, what table I have, whatever you will, and how we could work together to make a better life for us and those that we have around us.
Yeah, I got a little pushback. Actually, I kind of see where he's coming from here, but I somewhat disagree. I think women don't necessarily need a man due to modern society that we live in. They don't really need a man to survive. You can survive on your own and live a good life. However, women want men around. They prefer like he was saying, I agree with this part. Like they prefer not doing those typical man tasks, those traditional manly tasks. They don't want to do it. Can they do it? Yeah, they can probably figure out how to do it, or maybe pay somebody to do it. But if you pay somebody, it's probably going to be a man, right? So it's like they want men to be around, but do they need a man? That can be debated. Maybe, maybe not. But I think Steve gets it right is like, yeah, women can do some of these things, but they prefer men to do them because that's what they ultimately want. Go ahead, Sam.
So, moment of transparency. I used to believe that women didn't need men, right? Like, I got it. I can do it myself for the very same reasons that you just got.
Wow, that's a shocker, Sam, to me. I'm sorry. Sorry to cut you off.
However, I don't think that way anymore. I think that men and women need one another. Right? I believe that women need men for lots of things. You know, when you watch further into this portion of a clip, he talks about, yeah, you could drop a transmission, you could sandblast a house, but do you want to though? No, I don't. Right? And that goes both ways, right? There's many things that women do that men don't want to have to do, right? When you're talking about the roles of a man versus a woman. And I think that it's important to recognize that we need one another, right? We help grow one another. We help elevate one another. We help pour into one another. And we get to be there for each other when we have to be each other's safe haven, right? Especially when you talk about Black folks, because the world is cruel, it's rough, and we have a hard freaking time being Black people in America. Right. And so we need each other in order to feel safe. We need a safe place. And so I think that it's important to understand that, we need each other. As much as I could sit there and say, all right, boom, I'm doing well. I'm a lawyer. I'm educated. I got my own this. I got my own that. That doesn't mean that I need to be by myself. Right. Because that goes on to the next thing. Yeah, I'm independent. Yep, I am. But do you have to be all the time? You know, when God made man, he made woman for him. And he didn't do that like, all right, now you go over there, you got the Garden of Eden, and you got the Garden of Stephen. Like, that's not what he did. He let them share that together and do their thing together. You see what I'm saying? Because we need each other. You know, babies can die without companionship, without love. And that's why we have one another. And I think that people need to take a step back and stop being so high and mighty all the time and recognize that we need each other. Honestly, when more people recognize that we need each other, be more likely to be kinder to one another. Because I think that it's a rough life out here in this world about how people are just cruel to one another, harassing to one another, mean to one another for no damn reason. Right. And then now here we are as men and women continuously and constantly at odds with each other. For what? So we can just continue to just not have family. So we can just continue to just, you know, procreate and grow in the world. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, Sam and E, like, just think about it. The women that you meet in your life, if they don't have any good men around them, you're miserable. Like, whether it's a relationship or family, but if you don't have a good man around you, I feel like women are miserable. Well, men are like that. But men, no, but men.
That's a fair statement, though. That's a fair statement.
I was just talking about the women. But I
think it goes as a miserable man. A woman who isn't able to necessarily have, you know, the company of a man is a bit, like, you know what I'm saying? She's like a meaner, more stern, like, type person.
Just different.
Battle axe.
Like the same type of deal with the dude. Like, that dude is more like a, you know, socially awkward type, seeming like type of guy, where it's like, you know what I'm saying? So again, we both need each other and we both need to be able to have each other. And I think a lot of that comes from being able to converse, being able to, you know, enjoy each other's company and do the things that, you know, will make each other attracted to each other. You know what I'm saying? So all of those things are things.
Yeah, I just focused on the women aspect because of what Shannon's question was. Like, what about the independent woman? Like, men don't say I'm independent.
I think that too.
Men really don't Like it's
No,
not a
but you know something though,
common.
like
It's
this
not a
is something
common
we don't
conversation that people have. Like, go
this
ahead,
is
Sam.
something we often don't talk about. There are men out there like that too. Like, I don't need no woman for what? You see what I'm saying? And that's the reason why I say, nah, we need each other. You see what I'm saying? Because it's
I'll
not
say
to
those
say,
men are crazy.
but
Like
that's
they
what
know
makes me.
they're not in their right mind and right thinking. Maybe they've been hurt or something.
And I agree with both of y'all. We do need each other, and they are out of their mind if they think that you don't need a woman. Like you said, like I think the biggest thing that men even get from women is inspiration. You feel what I'm saying? Outside of it being like your direct woman that you might get it from, you might never say, you might not even, you know what I'm saying, know a certain girl or whatever, but you might think in your head, like, man, I'm sure if I, get myself in a certain type of situation, if I can make myself attracted to this type of person. Sure, if I, you know what I'm saying, continue to take care of myself, I can make myself attracted to this type of person. And so that can inspire you from even a distance, you know what I'm saying, in some senses, just because you, like you said, you just want to kind of get yourself around beautiful, beautiful women. And I think that also kind of draws, like, that's why they have those cities that they have out here that have a lot of beautiful women. I ain't gonna shout them all out, but in my days of traveling, you know what I'm saying, I've come across a few of them. And so, lastly, I just want to get ahead and go to our last little part of the clips real fast. There's one other little thing that I think was mentioned in that, and so I don't know why this thing always do this when I do that, but here we go. Let me get it ready for it.
This new way of thinking. Because this new way of thinking ain't getting y'all no damn where. I'm sorry. I got in trouble on one time. This group came after me because I said Marjorie belonged to me.
And they said she's not a possession. She's a person. She's a human.
She is. She mine. What is you talking about? She belonged to me, but I got news for you. I'm hers. I belong to her. See, if you don't like.
All right, so there we go. I think that was another one of those type of things where people feel like, Uncle Steve probably said, like, people catch some type of feelings about it because of the fact that, again, he made the statement of she belonged to me and I belong to her. But again, when you get married, that should somewhat be the thought process, right? Because they tell you guys become one. You know what I'm saying? So, I think unfortunately there's a lot of people who have a imagery of marriage being like this whole indentured servitude, as far as like for some of the facts, for some of the women in today's kind of world, where it's like, it's like this thought of like, oh, if I get married, you gonna want me to make your play, you gonna want me, you know what I mean? You hear some of these things sometimes, and it's like, how about we gonna want to do for each other? How about we gonna, you know what I'm saying? If you like to cook more, okay, cool, bet you cook more. You like, you know what I'm saying? You cook, okay, you maybe cook and you do look how you clean. All right, bet, appreciate that. I'm gonna come through with whatever I come through and help with. You know what I'm saying? There's ways that you guys can find balance and y'all can have what y'all want. But I think a lot of times it's just like there's this thought process of who's supposed to do who and what's supposed to be what. And it's like, who told y'all that? Like, who made you feel like that's how your relationship had to be? You know what I mean? And I think, to the point that Steve was making, you know what I'm saying, in regards to, excuse me, that new way of thinking, if you will. I think, he was somewhat on point with things, you know what I'm saying, in regards to saying that, things should be a little more traditional. But I don't necessarily feel like it should follow in those roles. I think it should be traditional in the sense of, hey, we have the same type of responsibilities and same duties that people have had in the past. Now, how we figure out what's what and who do what and how that works for us, that's something that we can figure out. But ultimately, I feel like he still feels like, and I honestly agree with what he's saying too. Like, I think I say this all the time. Most men, if they could, they would want to do what he said. They would want to be able to provide for their family. They would want their woman to not have to work. They would want to be able to provide them the lifestyle that they would want to have. I wholeheartedly believe all real men would want that for their family. You know what I'm saying? It's just that today's society and age, a lot of professions don't allow for people to be able to do that in certain ways. So yeah, that's just what I wanted to get off on that.
Malik?
I thought you had something to say on it.
I'll go
Yeah.
last.
Oh, okay. Yeah. As far as belonging to him and her, yeah. I feel like some people might feel like that's kind of weird because, like, a lot of women and a lot of people don't want to feel like possessions. Like items or anything like that. They want to feel more than that. From that standpoint. And I think from a guy, definitely it depends on the type of woman you have. It can definitely elevate your status. Depends on how she conducts herself, her behavior, her beauty, whether she inspires you or not, and stuff like that. So I think that plays a role in it as well. And I think as far as the ladies go, I think they're more flexible in terms of like it doesn't matter as long as they're with you and you're taking care of them and doing your job. I think whether you belong to her, belong to him, that kind of phrasing isn't as important in my opinion. As long as you're doing the best you can and meeting her needs and what she needs done from you, what she requires from you, right? So to me, like most women, they just they don't really want to do certain things that men would be willing to do. Like for example, I'm not saying that they won't do it, but it's like they really don't want to be the one carrying all the heavy burdens and loads, especially if a man's around. Like, yeah, when they're by themselves, yeah, that's one thing. But when a man comes in the picture, they want the man to be doing all of that heavy lifting, heavy burdens, whether it's physically, financially, or mentally, or whatever the case may be. Especially when, if we're looking at a traditional sense, they especially want that. So I kind of agree with Steve on that, like, the way he phrased it. And I don't really have too much to say on it because I don't disagree with him too much on it.
Yeah, I don't disagree with him at all. I think that people need to lighten up. I mean, people need to lighten up and they got to chill. Like, words are words. All words mean something. And people have got to chill out. Like, people really take a word and they run off the cliff with it. Him saying that his wife is his is exactly what it is, right? Listen to what I just said. If he's talking about his wife, if he does not say her name, he refers to as my wife. If she's talking to somebody and doesn't say his name, she refers to him as my husband. It's not, hey, yeah, I was talking to wife. It's my wife. So you know who he's talking about, especially since he's been married 3 times. You see what I'm saying? Like, people really got to chill. And you got to understand, like, if you're saying that that's my wife, my husband, my spouse, that means they're yours. You see what I'm saying? It's not like, oh, she's a toy. I'm going to put her up on the shelf and take her down when I want to play with her. But no, that's your spouse. You know what I'm saying? That's your significant other. And so people got to just relax, much like Chino. People got to relax and understand. And people got to relax and chill, understand that, things are not always going to be like how everybody is. People just be doing too much. You know what I'm saying? And it don't got to always be like that. The other thing I was going to say, and my final thought is, I agree with just about everything that Steve had to say. Malik and I definitely have don't agree on what he meant, but I absolutely believe that, in order for relationships to work, you have to have a certain type of a perspective. And there's nothing wrong with listening to somebody who's been married, if you want to be married. There's nothing wrong with listening to somebody who's older than you, because they have life experience. They have experienced things that we may have not necessarily have experienced. And everybody knows the older you get, the more perspective you have. And so I liked the interview with Steve. I liked how straightforward he was and how open he was. I know he could have gone into more detail, but it probably would have been a much, much longer show. So, with that, I definitely agree with everything he said for the most part. And so I hope you enjoyed the show. I'm going to dive into our motivational minute. And it's a quote by somebody by the name of Chuck. I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time reading the name, but I think it's Chuck Palahniuk. And it says, find joy in everything you choose to do. Every job, relationship, home. It's your responsibility to love it or change it. I thought that quote was befitting because, you know, when you're talking about relationship, these are the things that you pour into your home, your relationship, your work, your job, even if that job is what you do at home, right? And you got to be able to find joy in it because that's where your peace is. You got to be able to be happy, feel safe, and all of those things in those different areas of your life. You either got to love it or you got to change it. You ain't no tree. You ain't got to stay stuck. But regardless if you love it or you change it, you have to work at it. And there's a lot of different ways that you work at it. And everything isn't so cookie cutter like the guys were saying earlier. Like you have to understand that whatever works for you is going to work for you in your relationship with the person that you're in that relationship with. You know, and you can't just always have the same expectations in every relationship going from one to the next because you're dealing with different people and everybody functions different. So that's our motivational minute for the day. For the month. For the week rather. Our book of the month is Michelle Obama's The Light We Carry. She wrote the book during the pandemic to help give people some hope and things like that. It's not an expensive book, so you guys make sure y'all go and check it out. And then the Black-owned business of the month is a bookstore out here in Georgia. It's actually in Decatur, Georgia. It's called Brave and Kind Books. They have all kinds of books, but they definitely focus on children's books. So if you're ever in the Decatur area, please make sure you guys go check it out. All of those links are going to be up there at the end, right along with our socials. So with that, the only social that's probably not up is that I'm also in the Tagged app. So if you ever want to follow me, you can follow me at Sam, SAMMI, YAM, YAMM on the Tagged app. Otherwise, you can go ahead and check us out on all of our other social media handles. But whenever you tune into here on YouTube, it's cool. We love that you guys watch your videos, but please make sure you like, share, and subscribe. It really, really helps us to continue to grow. And we love y'all for that. We love y'all for y'all support. If you guys have any show ideas, any topics, anything you want to hear us talk about, or if you want to be on the show, please feel free to go ahead and reach out to us, whether it be in our DMs or however, and let us know because we like to have company and we love to have new ideas. So I don't have anything else. Oh, yes, I do have one other thing. We also do our show every Wednesday around 8:30 on Instagram Live. So if ever you guys want to tap into that, just go ahead and tap in with us right on our socials. So I don't know if the fellas had anything else they wanted to add, but you guys don't, do you?
Nothing else.
That's all on Wednesday.
Catch y'all on Wednesday. Thank y'all for tuning in.
All right.
Peace
so with that, see y'all later.